From horrifying cult-like initiation rituals to fraternal alcohol consumption leading to permanent injury and brutal physical punishment inflicted on fraternity pledges, today we'll be doing a bit of a true crime deep dive and looking at some of the most infamous of these hazing rituals and the grim consequences that followed them.
Is anyone in here that needs medical attention? Is anyone here that is against their will?
The Fraternity Basement Fright. This hazing video recently went viral on the internet and is probably one of the most visually disturbing out there. What you're witnessing is a ritual that led to an arrest and the banning of an entire frat chapter, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. This is the story of the University of Iowa basement body cam video. On November 15, 2024, at the University of Iowa, first responders were called to the campus residence of the fraternity Alpha Delta Phi after a report of a fire alarm being triggered. There, police would not find a fire, but instead they'd have another problem, witnessing a peculiar scene as they descended into the confines of the fraternity house. Like something out of a live leak video, body cam footage shows firemen and police entering a dark basement, finding it crowded with clusters of young college-aged men, approximately 56 of them in total.
Police department, this stops here. Who's in charge? How about we start cleaning this up. Everyone take their blindfolds off. Look at that, man. You see anything over there?
No, I mean just one dangerous fire code violation after another.
Yeah. Yes, 142. I'll take you as well.
Yeah.
And they're all just still standing there.
Yeah, right.
The horde of young men here refusing to talk or communicate in any way is truly unsettling. You can see that they're covered in fluids, looks to be ketchup, mustard, mayo, and who knows what else. The entire room, and the rest of the lower level for that matter, is a swampy mess. Looking into the other rooms reveals the absolute scale of just how grotesque this place was. The house was a complete pigsty and seemed uninhabitable, but given the number of sleeping bags and blow-up mattresses, the men clearly lived there. How? Well, it shouldn't be lost that this is taking place in a frat house. And while they are typically pretty gross, I'd wager these soaked conditions were inflicted upon these half-naked men by elder frat mates just recently. These young men are without a doubt freshman pledges, and what we're seeing is them undergoing a hazing humiliation ritual, and only those of them who finish it through to the end can join the frat. And it's likely they were informed not to spill the beans on what was going on. Officers were quick to come to this conclusion as well, but what they were worried about is if people were being physically hurt or injured as a part of this. This information gap is what they would seek to close as we move further into this recording.
What hurt? Is anyone in here that needs medical attention? Is anyone here that is against their will? Is there anyone here who is not participating in this? I.e. a leader?
Is there anyone with any sort of physical injury?
No.
The creepy group of men remain tight-lipped about what's occurring, likely fearing retaliation from frat members if they spoke about what was happening. But police would eventually be granted a liaison in the form of this guy, a drunken Iowa hoodie-wearing man named Jose.
So what's going on in here? You don't know? You're just blocking the door so we can't see?
You go to University of Iowa?
I do.
You do? What's your major?
Business.
Business? What's your name?
Why?
So what's your name is?
Jose.
Jose? Jose, what's your last name?
Why?
Go on. Don't talk.
I want to tell you that.
Jose, who seemingly had some association with this frat, made it his mission to hinder the police investigation, doing just about anything and everything he could to protect the secrecy of what was going on.
What's all over you guys?
Just water.
Just water? What's on that dude's tie?
Why are you asking me?
Because it sounds like you're responsible for the house.
No.
It sounds like you have some idea of what's going on.
No.
You're not very forthcoming with everything.
How about you ask the house dad? Who are you 30 years
That's who we're trying to get hold of.
Okay, go call him. Please.
I assume you belong to this fraternity?
Correct. What's going on?
You can go back over there. I'm not talking to you.
This is private property.
Stop.
It is. And you know that.
No, this is owned by the university,
It's
right?
already in here.
It's not.
It is not.
It's
It
not.
is.
It's not.
You need to go over
It's
there.
not. It's owned
You
by
need to go over there.
It's owned by Sig Kai.
Who cares?
We're not. We're not.
Go over there.
Yeah, just
Right.
listen.
Why are you over here? Why are you making things difficult? I'm talking to him right now.
I'm not.
Why are you making
I'm
things
talking to
difficult?
my fucking friend.
No, you're not. I'm talking to him. You need to go back over there.
Sleep on that then.
Guys,
I'll stand right here.
I don't know why you're being so difficult.
I'm not.
You are.
You guys can fucking leave. How about that?
No, we are not.
There's no fire.
There's also fire code violations.
Is it?
There's hazing
It's a
going
fucking
on.
basement. There's no hazing.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not. Okay. I'm
No.
done talking to you. It's all good. What's going on?
I already told you, sir. I don't really know. I just came by. I have a bunch of buddies that live here. They're playing some Call of Duty Zombies.
Jose proves quite successful in his efforts of slowing down police. These officers, however, would manage to get answers after the fraternity house dad arrives. From what I understand, a house dad is an adult supervisor figure, typically hired by fraternities to act as a building manager of sorts.
All right. Now the main concern is going to be the hazing issue, and your basement has a considerable amount of like standing beer
Okay.
and liquid.
Who have you talked to? Anybody? I got
Talked to a few people. We're just trying to get it sorted out who's involved and who's kind of leading the thing. No one's really being forthcoming on that. There's a guy in a white Iowa sweatshirt that's being a little difficult. He says he lives here, but he doesn't live here. And then we got two others, I think, that are involved with kind of leading it as well. So
It appears this individual had no knowledge of the basement hazing and was completely blindsided by the police summons to the building. When informed of what was going on, the house dad goes in and assesses the absolute carnage that was the frat house's lower level. With the building manager now aware of things, the party was over.
Who's the person who brought right there?
this guy.
This guy?
Yep.
What's your name?
Joe.
Joe what?
Did you get his ID?
Yep.
I didn't
He
hear
gave
it.
us an idea.
Joe what?
Gaia.
Gaia? How do you spell that?
G-A-Y.
How many people are back here?
No one's back here.
So it's too late.
These are just apparently where all the guys that are shirtless sleep. Yeah.
The hazing participants are filed out of the house. They continue their cultish silence, moving in organized formations and refusing to explain themselves still. Police capture some final video footage of the sickening environment, and I have to say this shot in particular looks like something straight out of the Epstein files. Once everyone is out, police speak to the house dad one final time, where he admits he was probably about to get fired.
Yeah. There goes my second job.
Nobody was arrested during this incident. While hazing is illegal in the state of Iowa, police didn't have enough evidence or any confession in regard to who was responsible for organizing the ritual. But they weren't quite finished in their inquiry. Police would follow up with our old pal Jose the following day. After all, he was the most talkative of the bunch, and the biggest thorn in the side of police throughout all of this. They would visit his home off campus, and unsurprisingly, he was just as unhelpful as he was the night of the humiliation ritual.
Why were you injecting yourself into that
You just need to talk to them.
Why not?
What are they investigating? There's nothing going on.
So they were trying to figure out what was going on in that room.
They don't know. They just came downstairs when you guys did.
Okay.
I mean, no one knows what's going on.
Yeah.
You're the investigators. Do some investigating. You know what I mean? You're asking a whole bunch.
That's what I'm doing now.
You're asking a whole bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds about what's going on. These scared don't know what's going on. No one knows what's going on. I don't even know what's going on.
So how do we find out what's going on if nobody...
Man, you got the wrong guy though.
Jose, whose full name was actually Joseph Gaia, would be hassled in the short term for his stubbornness. After this interview, Joseph was actually arrested and charged with interfering in the officer's investigation. But after hiring an attorney, Joseph managed to get the charges against him dropped. And with that, the exact details of what occurred on that night remain a mystery. The secrets kept by those present who aspired to become frat members. Ironically though, their secrecy and lack of cooperation with police would end up ruining any chances of joining the frat altogether. The campus police, alongside the Office of Student Accountability, conducted their own private investigation. With the University of Iowa's apparent no hazing policy, this resulted in a ruling submitted on February 25th that ordered the fraternity to be suspended of all operations until at least July 1st of 2029, meaning all of the humiliation that these young men suffered was essentially for nothing. Rather, their legacy could be summed up as, well, being featured in multi-million viewed body cam videos on YouTube. It's funny how that works, huh? The Alpha Delta Phi hazing video is disturbing visually, but when it comes to hazing in general, it's mild in terms of the depravity when compared to other stories that I'll be talking about today. Things only get darker and more disturbing from here. The disturbing hazing of Danny Santulli. Many hazing rituals involve elder frat members making initiates drink copious amounts of alcohol. While this often ends in nothing more than a vomitous passout, there is a reason these rituals are infamous. Enter the case of Danny Santulli. Heading into the fall of 2021, 19-year-old finance major Danny Santulli was a University of Missouri student pledging for the fraternity chapter Phi Gamma Delta. On October 19th of that year while pledging, Danny attended a Pledge Father reveal event at the fraternity facility. Surveillance footage from the fraternity's home security showed Santulli as well as other numerous pledges in the middle of their hazing ritual. In the basement, they met their pledge dad, who presented them each with a bottle of vodka. This bottle would be taped to each of their hands, and they were told that they had to finish the bottle before the night was over. Purportedly, upperclassmen were even checking the bottles to make sure it was finished. And not only was he forced to drink the entire bottle, he was also seen funneling beers as well. It's a recipe for disaster. And then tragedy struck. While standing around a mass of pledges and fraternity brothers, Danny collapsed, falling backwards onto the ground. Then a group of frat boys pick him up, bringing him to a room in the fraternity house and dump him on a couch. There he laid in a stupor until falling off of the couch, face first onto the floor. Still, he was checked on and put back onto the couch. But later, as another fraternity brother went to check on him again, he noticed that Danny wasn't breathing and his lips had turned blue. Yet even then, they didn't call 911, but scooped him up, actually dropping him on his head again, before putting him in the car and driving him to the university hospital. By the time they got to the parking lot, Danny had gone into cardiac arrest, leading to someone from the emergency room to race over and perform CPR. He would be admitted to the hospital, and staff would discover that Danny's blood alcohol level was at 0.486, over 6 times the legal driving limit, and a level that's considered life-threatening. Hospital staff were able to resuscitate Danny and placed him on a ventilator, but the damage had already been done. The guy had gone too long without oxygen, resulting in brain trauma and paralysis. Danny wouldn't be able to see, talk, or walk for the rest of his life. Some medical professionals have called it the worst injury in the history of hazing. Afterwards, on October 22, 2021, the University of Missouri withdrew the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity's recognition and proposed sanctions against 13 of its members. They charged one fraternity member, the pledge dad, Ryan Dulante, with 2 misdemeanors for supplying alcohol to a minor, but no other charges had been filed. The Santulli family were furious. His sister, who also attended the University of Missouri, even had to attend class and see the very same students responsible for her brother's disability still going to class like nothing had even occurred. So they went to the media, putting together a petition and obtained thousands of signatures in an effort to get justice for their boy. Their dedication in seeking some semblance of justice wouldn't be in vain. Later, 11 of the fraternity brothers were charged, 10 of which were indicted by a grand jury for hazing. In 2022, the Santulli family would sue the fraternity with nearly 24 defendants in the civil suit, including the fraternity's national chapter. This would result in a non-disclosed settlement that was said to be in the multi-millions. In May of 2025, Santulli's pledge dad, Ryan Dulante, would plead guilty to hazing and supplying alcohol to a minor and was sentenced to 6 months in jail, as well as another 6 months under house arrest. Danny's parents, Tom and Mary Pat, would become advocates against hazing, promoting the signing of new laws that helped protect others from similar fates, one of which was signed in 2024 by Joe Biden and was called the Stop Campus Hazing Act, which requires colleges and universities to include hazing incidents in their annual security reports. On February 20th, 2025, a new law was passed by the Missouri Senate and put into effect in the state. That law was called Danny's Law, which guarantees immunity from prosecution to any 911 callers in the event of hazing. Something that if some of these fraternity brothers had, they may have been more willing to alert the authorities of what was going on. In the present day, Danny's parents have retired and are now their son's full-time caregivers. They have invested in a hands-free device that tracks Danny's eye movements, which helps him communicate. When asked if Danny understood what had happened to him, Mary Pat has said, quote, "There are times when he is emotional and gets tears, so we don't like to talk about what happened in front of him. Maybe things are coming back. We don't know." The glass ceiling hazing death. Blunt force injury is a common practice in hazing rituals, and next to alcohol, it's one of the most common ways these frat groups end up killing their initiates. 19-year-old freshman Chun Deng, also known as Michael, was pledging for the Asian American Cultural Fraternity Pi Delta Psi at the Baruch College in Manhattan. On December 9th, 2013, Michael attended a fraternity retreat 90 miles away from New York at the Ponoco Mountains in Pennsylvania. There, he would partake in a hazing ritual in what is called the glass ceiling. During this complex and excruciating ritual, Michael would be blindfolded along with other pledges and handed a backpack that was loaded with 30 pounds of sand. He was forced to blindly run a gauntlet and deal with people beating him from all angles. The goal was to reach another fraternity member who was calling his name in the distance. It was a twisted version of Marco Polo. During all of this, the guy was beaten and tackled repeatedly, with other Pi Delta Psi members making it their goal to prevent him from reaching the end of the challenge. This might as well have been football practice without pads, as at one point Michael was speared head-on, wrapped up, and slammed by another member, pile-drived into the ground head first. Not long after this part of the hazing, he mentioned having a headache, but persisted through the ritual until eventually he collapsed and lost consciousness. With little urgency, the fraternity members surrounded around him and checked on him. Michael showed signs of having trouble breathing, yet instead of calling 911, the college students took him to the inside of the cabin they were at and put him by the fireplace. Then they got in contact with their president, Andy Ming. Meng reportedly advised them to change his clothes and hide all fraternity items within the house. Instead of taking the guy to the hospital, they spent an hour searching the internet to diagnose his symptoms, Googling phrases like concussion, can't wake up, and pupils don't dilate. They were trying to cover up what had happened while also looking up WebMD articles to, try to solve his issue. They allegedly refused to call an ambulance, and the later stated reason for this was that it would have costed them too much. Finally, after nearly 2 hours had passed since Michael had lost consciousness, 3 of the members took him to a Pennsylvania hospital almost 45 minutes away. Unfortunately, the long wait between him collapsing and him getting the medical aid he needed, well, it was too much. Michael would succumb to his injuries, becoming unresponsive to medical intervention, and he died the next day. An autopsy would later reveal that Michael received repeated trauma to the head, torso, and thighs. The examiner says, quote, "The delay in treatment of 1 to 2 hours significantly contributed to his death," unquote. Authorities would be alerted to the circumstances and conducted an investigation, where later a grand jury recommended charges for 37 people, with crimes ranging from aggravated assault and hazing to third-degree murder. On September 15, 2015, Meng and 4 other members, Kenny Kwan, Raymond Lam, Sheldon Wong, and Charles Lai, were charged with hazing, conspiracy, and hindering apprehension, while the now former fraternity president, Andy Ming, was given 36 months of probation. On May 15, 2017, the 4 defendants I mentioned earlier would plead guilty to voluntary manslaughter, hindering apprehension, along with other charges. On January 8, 2018, Kenny Kwan received 10 to 24 months in county jail. Raymond Lam and Sheldon Wong were given 10 to 24 months, and Charles Lai was sentenced to time served, spending 342 days in jail because he couldn't make bail. As for the fraternity, it was banned from the college entirely, and banned from operating in Pennsylvania for 10 years. They were ordered to pay $110,000 to the family of Michael, and that family would sue the fraternity, later getting a $300,000 settlement in November of 2016. The dark legacy of crossing Bus C. Next, we move to an infamous hazing story, a bizarre marching band bus ritual that left a man dead.
Champion had to push his way from the front of the bus to the back. Roughly 20 people punched and kicked him and hit him with drum mallets.
Back when this story takes place in 2011, Florida A&M's marching band was highly regarded and renowned as one of the best performance-style marching groups among the HBCU, or historically black colleges and universities. The band not only performed at college football stadiums, but had also performed at Super Bowls and in front of U.S. presidents. However, on the night of November 19, 2011, a notorious hazing ritual would shatter the band's reputation and possibly would send some of the bandmates to prison. In what is now considered an infamous hazing, but at the time was seen as a rite of passage, the ritual consisted of the entire band crew crowding into a bus, and initiates would take off their shirts and position themselves at the entrance of the bus. Their mission was to get to the back of the bus, though that's easier said than done, as all of the other band members were meant to beat, push, and tackle this initiate so that they don't make it. Basically, try to get to the back of the bus while we all simultaneously beat the shit out of you. Crossing Bus C was something of an open secret and considered band tradition. Supposedly, this hazing ritual had been taking place for the past 50 years at the time. However, on a November night in 2011, things would take a horrible turn as 3 bandmates attempted to make their way through the gauntlet. One of them lost their life. After performing at that year's Florida Classic football game in Orlando, the band's bus made their way back to the Rosen Plaza Hotel, where it sat in the parking lot for some time. It was then decided that their next initiation would begin. The supposed ringleader of this whole ordeal was 27-year-old Dante Martin. Allegedly, he, alongside other band members, Jesse Baskin and Jonathan Boyce, had 3 pledges run the gauntlet. One of the most notable in regard to this soon-to-be tragedy, 26-year-old drum major Robert Champion. First, Robert was put through what they call the hot seat, where they force you into a seat and basically beat the shit out of you. Then, he was made to sprint across the bus while people waylaid him. Reportedly, things got extremely brutal, with band members holding Robert back as others used fists, feet, straps, and sticks and beat him senseless. One of the hazers, Ryan Dean, would later tell authorities that he yelled into Robert's ear, quote, "Come on, push through," unquote, as a woman held him back while fists rained down. During the worst of it, Robert collapsed onto a bus seat, but instead of giving him space, the band rushed him, jumping on him up and down, doing so for an estimated 15 seconds. When he managed to push himself free, Robert was greeted with even more punches. With excruciating effort, he eventually managed to complete the ritual by crossing Bus C, but it came at great cost. After completing his Hell March, Robert started complaining about having difficulty breathing, and then, once out in the parking lot, he vomits and collapsed. Band members called 911, hoping to get the guy some help, but after arriving, first responders informed them that help would be impossible because, well, the guy was dead. Robert had died crossing Bus C. A medical examiner later found his torso covered in bruises and contusions that signified multiple traumatic injuries. Deep tears in tissues under his skin were found. It was concluded that Robert Champion died from hemorrhagic shock resulting from blunt force trauma. Though at that point, no arrests were made, and allegedly, authorities allowed the students to get back on the bus and go back to the university. Many would be outraged by this decision, as they believed this tainted what was essentially a crime scene. It seemed nobody was willing to take responsibility for what had happened here. No students were put on academic probation, and get this, some of those who beat the guy even attended his funeral and stood on his honor guard. The truth of what occurred on Bus C that evening was something of a mystery to those outside of it. Yes, Robert was dead, but the details of how it happened were seemingly being withheld by the guilty parties who took part in the ritual. But their secrecy would eventually be broken. As Robert Champion's mother began receiving excessive calls from remorseful parties, she grew suspicious of these individuals' intentions. She knew people would feel sorry, but the amount of people apologetic was not something she expected. Something didn't feel right to her about this. Her suspicions of foul play would be proven correct, as attorneys representing Robert's family would later learn that there was an alleged conspiracy to cover up Robert's murder, with school alumni supposedly communicating to students after the events transpired, telling them how to respond when asked questions about the death of Robert, what to say, what not to say, in an effort to get no one arrested or charged for murder. This conspiracy to cover up what had happened would eventually be foiled. Robert's death would be ruled a homicide by Florida authorities, and by May 6th of 2012, 13 students had been charged with hazing-related crimes in relation to Robert Champion's death. 11 of these were felony charges and 2 were misdemeanor. After arrests were made, an investigation on the Florida A&M Marching 100 band would be conducted, which resulted in the band's suspension for more than a year, meaning they would be unable to perform at games or other venues. Florida A&M's university president, James Ammons, would resign. The band director, Julian White, was terminated. Finally, the matter was being taken seriously. 15 of the band members were indicted on hazing charges, while others were given more serious infractions. Ryan Dean was one of the hazers that faced more serious charges, being indicted on 1 count of manslaughter and 3 hazing-related charges. Another to face such elevated counts was, of course, the man accused of organizing all of this, 27-year-old Dante Martin. During trial, defense attorneys for the hazing ringleader would argue that this was in fact not a hazing ritual, but more akin to a competition that Robert and the others willingly took part in. I mean, come on, dude. Competitions do not need to be conspiratorially covered up by those who take place in them, and it would be absurd to think that Robert was willing to die in order to complete this ritual. It's clear that this was a hazing gone wrong. On October 31st, 2014, Dante was convicted of manslaughter as well as multiple misdemeanor hazing counts from other beatdowns organized prior to this tragedy. He was later sentenced to serve 77 months in prison. A quote from Robert's father: "We hate to see anyone's child go to prison. To know that my son's life will not be in vain, that will make a difference. I hope that people will get the message that hazing isn't cool. It doesn't work. It doesn't need to be here. You need to stop now." All things considered, it truly is disturbing how easy it is for these people to get off with these hazing crimes, only getting months, if that, in jail. I mean, if you think about it, that was kind of the case with every story today. I would be willing to speculate that many of these fraternity members come with wealth and are able to afford lawyers that can get them out of these legal situations, or let's just be honest, these killings that they're a part of. It's ridiculous to me that anybody could consider this justice. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Wanted to throw it back to 2023 and do a bit of true crime. Let me know what you thought down below, and let me know who or what you want me to talk about next. I want to give a major shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys. Wavy Web Surf out. Peace.